important it is ever since I held my first baby boy. And I think from there, my banking career went out the window, and it was just all about learning about development and what I could do to support, first of all, his development. And that really led on to getting involved in promoting parents as first teachers back then when he was 1, 2. That became my career, talking about development and the parents' role in supporting children's development. And that then led on to teaching and early childhood and now training. And really the bottom line of everything we do, you'll see this word a lot, flourish. Our students start using this word as well, because that's what it's all about for me, is supporting children to flourish in early childhood, because it's actually setting them up for the foundations for life. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so it's a huge responsibility, and we take it really, really seriously to create early childhood professionals, because, you know, it's a make or break deal in early childhood. When you think about 90% of their brain development happening in early childhood. Mm-hmm. So really thinking about what does it take, and it's a huge commitment. It's kind of a lifestyle, I think, working early in childhood, because it becomes part of who you are. I think we become more joyful, more curious, more enthusiastic about the smallest things, because it's children's influence on us. We've become more curious about learning and become learners. We're learning about families, about their culture, and really strong into relationships. Children are growing and learning at such a rapid rate that it's inspiring for us. And when we're thinking about early childhood professionals, it really is about being ongoing learners. So I guess that's really a question. Well, when you take on study is, you know, am I committed to this learning journey of being an educator? Because we can never know it all. So I'm still learning, still passionate about learning and doing better. I keep going deeper and deeper into my knowledge, and that's a great thing, I think. So we talked about that, strong foundations for life. So we're guided in early childhood by a fantastic framework. And Samantha, you mentioned at the beginning that you didn't really like what was happening in early childhood. And that means if you didn't like it, if you didn't feel like children were flourishing and doing all these things that we're just going to look at in a minute, then they probably weren't following the early years learning framework, because that's a brilliant document that's been set by the Australian government to guide early childhood educators in their practice. So that's the bottom line, is if it's quality, they're doing the right things, they're supporting children's learning and development with their strong sense of identity. So that's a lot to do with feeling confident and connected to each other and having a sense of well-being. So social, emotional and physical well-being, and being confident and involved. So this is really setting them up for learning for life and being an effective communicator. So that's huge in itself, and it's not something we can just tick off in one activity. These things are things we're all working on as adults. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Constantly.
So yeah, it's definitely, if we can help children towards these long-term goals, and that's our focus, we're doing an awesome job. That's what it's all about, really. So when we're thinking about each child's learning and development, the question we're asking ourselves is, how do we get there? And once again, the early years learning framework guides us. So how would you rate yourself in forming relationships? And do you value that as a quality? Because being an early childhood educator, I believe, is a lot, nearly all about relationships, because we've got children, we've got families, we've got our colleagues, management. It's a huge relationship-based role. So if we like people, it's a good fit. Yeah, we sounding good so far? as
Yeah,
far
it's
as,
number one.
sorry?
I said with relationships, it's like number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the foundation of our practice. If we're not showing respect to a child and seeing them as capable, how do we expect them to respect us? So, it's in our language that we use and how we see children. It really influences everything, including the environment we set up for them. So if we see children as capable, it's going to be a whole lot more, I guess, challenging in the environment, because you're not kind of thinking they're not capable, or we're giving them just plastic everything because we don't want them to break anything. So we really want to give them lots and lots to explore and discover in the environment, because this is all part of learning, being curious, being involved, and play. We all need to play more, myself included. It's my new goal in life. Weekends for playtime. So for children, it's the best, highest form of learning. So yes, we are teaching, but it's in a really subtle role. It's in more like a co-learner role, where we're learning with the children, exploring with, questioning with, pondering with, rather than filling up an empty vessel with our knowledge and kind of teaching like they teach us at school. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful, rewarding experience. And in this environment, children do flourish, because it's what they're wired to do. They're wired to soak in all these experiences and actively explore and engage and learn that way. And that's to do with brain development as well. So do you think challenge is important for learning?
So important. I'm very big on giving my two challenge.
Absolutely. Because without challenge, there's no learning, right?
I think it's their favourite bit too.
Yeah. Well, you just got to think back to your own childhood, right? And the things that you enjoyed. And I bet it was a lot about this. Well, I'm hoping it was. If it wasn't, it's pretty sad, isn't it? So, these are the sort of key parts of our focus. And then, of course, there's all the nurturing that comes within care routines, really sensitive and responsive care that builds trust and emotional security, which is part of all the social and emotional well-being that we really want to create in early childhood. Because without that, we're not going to have that strong sense of identity and self-confidence and self-worth. So the really good news is, as soon as you enroll as a student in early childhood, you can basically get a job, which is a little bit freaky when you think that, when you very start your journey as a student, you're really green, right? But as long as you're open to learning and taking on what you're seeing and doing, that's fine. In some ways people prefer that than someone that might be stale and rigid and stuck in maybe old ways and thinking of. So everyone starts somewhere and everyone's on a journey. Everyone's learning together. So it's fine as long as you're open to learning and growing. So there's two pathways. You can enroll, and if you haven't got a job, just start with work placement. The good news is every single first year student to date who starts on work placement ends up with employment quite quickly, because they shine, basically. And there's demand in this career for, well, we'll hope we could say quality early childhood educators, but there's basically a demand, full stop. So unlike kind of hospitality and perhaps sales and other professions right now, we're in the lucky career pathway, I think. So Jasmine's story is simply that she enrolled, she started on work placement, very quickly started with casual work, and they're like the relief pool at the service. And the good thing is everyone gets to see the fit. Is this the right team and the right workplace for me? that you'll be asking that about the team and the workplace, and the workplace will be looking at you and going, are you the right fit for us? So it's almost like a try before you buy, before you commit to getting a full-time job or a part-time job there. We can look around and see other places. So I would almost encourage you to try 2 or 3 places for work placement. Doesn't usually happen. Usually people get snapped up really fast, but I think it's good to see that there are other ways and to find what works for you. So the good news, I think, also is the government recognises it's a practical skill to be an educator. You can't just have it all in your head. I say we have to work from the head and the heart very much. It is a heart job. So we put it into practice. Your learning is very much practice-based. So our assessments we write ourselves so that you're going to take all your learning from our online tutorials and Zoom workshops and resources that we give you, and then complete an assessment workbook that is about putting your learning into practice. So what things to know here.